The Tigers finish off the 2024 regular season with a rout of Oklahoma in a Garrett Nussmeier legacy game. Here's your biggest takeaways. It's Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making this your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. LSU beats Oklahoma 37-17. They didn't just beat Oklahoma. They beat down Oklahoma in every way you could possibly beat down a team. And I want to talk about the game, and I want to talk about my biggest takeaways. But I'm going to start, however, with the Garrett Nussmeier legacy game. A lot of people after this game have compared what Garrett Nussmeier did on Saturday against Oklahoma to Joe Burrow in the Fiesta Bowl against UCF when he took that giant hit. And a lot of people said, boom, that awakened Burrow to what he would become in 2019. Now, I'm not sitting here trying to predict what Garrett Nussmeier will do next year should he come back to LSU, and if it would look anything remotely close to what Joe Burrow did in 2019. I'm not predicting that at all. What is fair to say is what a lot of people haven't been willing to admit and acknowledge about Garrett Nussmeier this season. And the bottom line is Garrett Nussmeier presently has polished off the third greatest single season passing season in LSU history, behind only two Heisman winners, Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels. And by the way, had Garrett Nussmeier not gotten hurt on Saturday night, he might have passed Jaden Daniels' 2023 Heisman season. Now he'll have an opportunity, most certainly, to do it in the bowl game, to be behind only Joe Burrow for the second greatest single season passing season in LSU history. It's not just that Garrett Nussmeier went out there against Oklahoma and was 22 of 31 for 277 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, a rating of 178, and completed 71% of his passes. It's all the circumstances that surrounded it. Let me remind you, as if you didn't already know, LSU wasn't playing for anything of significance. They can't win the national championship. They can't win the playoff. They can't make it to Atlanta, win the SEC championship, can't even win 10 games. All of the stated goals this team had before the season were off the table. So here you are at the end, 3 plays into the second quarter of the final game of the regular season, and a 7-7 game where Garrett Nussmeier has already been sacked, stripped, scoop, and score. You're tied 7-7. And here you are, after converting a 4th and 1 with a Josh Williams 2-yard run, 1st and 10 from midfield, and Garrett Nussmeier gets sacked, lands on his right shoulder, is in obvious pain, takes off his shoulder pads in the injury tent, can barely move. We all know he's sitting there clutching his right arm to his body. We're all thinking the same thing. Separated shoulder or broken collarbone. We're all thinking the exact same thing. And we're all thinking his day is over. And then we watch A.J. Swan go out there and try to call a 4th timeout that he didn't have and misfire on a pass into the end zone, and LSU settled for a field goal. But the next time the LSU offense went on the field, there was Garrett Nussmeier. Back out of the locker room after they x-rayed and found that he did not, in fact, have a broken clavicle. And in a game where it would have been so easy for Garrett Nussmeier to say, it ain't my night, let's let AJ or Ricky bring this one home, he went back out there. And on his first drive, he heaves a ball 50 yards downfield in the air. It was a 40-yard touchdown pass to Chris Hilton before the end of the first half to give LSU the lead back 24-17. And then when you start going into the second half and how Garrett Nussmeier played, On LSU's opening possession of the second half, they're facing a 3rd and 5. Garrett Nussmeier runs for 7 yards, straight up the middle. And by the way, he didn't just run. He didn't give himself up feet first. He dove head first and landed on that same injured right shoulder. And by the way, 3 plays later was Chris Hilton's second touchdown reception of the game, this time 45 yards. Again, Garrett Nussmeier with an injured shoulder, airing it out. Oh, he wasn't done. He wasn't done. How about 3rd and 4? LSU's next possession. Tigers are up 14. It's 31-17. LSU's up 2 touchdowns. They're up 2 touchdowns. There's 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. Oklahoma can't do anything offensively. It's 3rd and 4. And what does Garrett Nussmeier do? He scrambles toward the sideline because he's being pressured, and he reaches the ball, dives and reaches for the pylon. They rule him short. He gets up. He's yelling at the ref, saying they gave him a bad spot. The bottom line is, y'all, it didn't matter that was a 7-win LSU team against a 6-win Oklahoma team. It didn't matter that you weren't playing to go to Atlanta. You weren't playing for the playoff or the national championship. You were playing because Garrett Nussmeier, and I'm not trying to sound Pollyanna here, because Garrett Nussmeier was wearing the purple and gold, wearing the LSU uniform in Tiger Stadium, playing a game that mattered for him, for his teammates, for the seniors, for the coaches, for the fans, and he was busting his behind out there with a bum shoulder. Not just toughing it out, but running the ball, landing on his shoulder, stretching for first downs. Up 14 with 2 minutes to go in the third, and you're running toward the sideline, reaching the ball toward the first down marker. You want to know why? Because Garrett Nussmeier is a G. He's a dog. He's a gamer. Whatever slang term you want to use. He's an alpha. He is your leader. Too many times throughout the course of this season, I've had to sit here and answer questions from too many of you. You know who you are. And I'm talking directly to you about Garrett Nussmeier. And I've told you over and over again, he gives you your best chance to win this year, and he gives you your best chance to win next year, even if Bryce Underwood had come to LSU. That dude is about to polish off the second greatest passing season in the history of LSU football. In a season when the running game largely has been absent, the defense at times has let them down. You have a first-year play caller as well in Joe Sloan. And time and again, we have seen Garrett Nussmeier get hit, get up limping, hobbling, now his shoulder, and he keeps going out there without complaining and ignoring all of the criticism. This was a Garrett Nussmeier legacy game because a lot of us already believed Garrett Nussmeier was the guy to lead LSU. And if you didn't, you do now. There's not a soul that cheers for LSU that could have watched that young dude on Saturday night against Oklahoma play the game he did through injury, and the game that for all intents and purposes didn't matter for what all we talk about our goals are, and played the way he did. Oh, I will not tolerate Garrett Nussmeier slander anymore. I was already bullish on Nussmeier. Try to cross me with that now. Watch what A.J. Swan did in the drive he got, and try to come at me with any Garrett Nussmeier slander. You're a fool. You're a fool if you're not convinced. And you would be a fool not to be ecstatic about Garrett Nussmeier returning in 2025. Because if you want to see LSU win a championship in 2025, he gives you your best shot to do it. There have been turnovers, I know, this year, and that's unfortunate. It's not been perfect or flawless. But you can't ignore the great, and there's been a lot of great. And Saturday night against Oklahoma, walloping Oklahoma in Tiger Stadium, was a legacy game for Garrett Nussmeier, no matter what he does for the remainder of his time at LSU. Had to talk about Nuss. We'll run through the rest of the game as we continue here, and I'll give you my big takeaways. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Excuse me. Let me start with FanDuel. My apologies. I got them out of order. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Y'all, we're heading to another NFL weekend. And remember, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. Now I get to tell you, the LSU regular season is over, but it'll be bowl season before you know it. Maybe you're an NFL fan. You want to watch the big game in New Orleans. You could certainly find tickets at Game Time. And remember, at Game Time, with Game Time picks, they go to great lengths to make sure you end up paying the best price for the best seats. There's so many ways to save money on tickets, no matter when you buy. Game Time Pick shows you only the best value on tickets. There's last-minute deals on tickets up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. And you can even, remember, if you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. So LSU beats Oklahoma 37-17. It was a Garrett Nussmeier legacy game. But if you run through the game, it certainly didn't look like it was going to be that way. Tigers got the ball to start the game. Oklahoma won the toss and deferred. Tigers would punt. Unfortunately, Garrett Nussmeier missed an open Aaron Anderson on a 3rd and 3 play. But the defense held Oklahoma to 3 and out. Tigers would get the ball, and you love to see this. Couple of first downs, move down the field, and Kyron Lacey coasted into the end zone for the first touchdown of the game. LSU leads 7-0. For all the criticism of Joe Sloan and play calling, when you have a walk-in touchdown, how about you credit play calling as well? Because that was set up by play calling. Oklahoma got the ball back. Tigers force another punt. And right now you're feeling good. Oklahoma's offense, impotent. They can't move. You're up 7-0. You keep getting stops. You get the ball back. And unfortunately, this is where you have the sack, strip, fumble, and a defensive score. The one way to let a team hang around that is terrible offensively, is let their defense score. And that's what LSU did. And unfortunately, as a result, they allowed Oklahoma to hang around. But the Tigers got the ball back. And this is the drive where Nussmeier got hurt, unfortunately. He did convert a 3rd and 7 with a 15-yarder to Mason Taylor. Nussmeier got hurt, and you ended up punting. It's unfortunate because you had moved the ball into Oklahoma territory, but you came up short. Credit to the LSU defense, because after Nussmeier was hurt, it's a 7-7 ball game, and you're wondering, how is this going to go? Your defense forces a 3 and out. Braden Swinson came up with a big TFL on a reception. If you remember, it was a pass behind the line of scrimmage. Swinson decleated the ball carrier right there for a 1-yard loss and a 3 and out. And then on the first play of LSU's next drive, 50-yard run by Caden Durham, but you'd end up settling for a field goal. So you're up 10-7. Oklahoma, the first play of their next drive, 50-yard reception. But after just 3 plays, they were in the end zone. The big difference, LSU had a 50-yard play on the first play of its possession. Field goal, Oklahoma, 50 yards on its first play of its possession, ended in a touchdown. So now Oklahoma leads 14-10. And this was the biggest play of the game, in my opinion. Oklahoma has a 14-10 lead. Nussmeier is out of the game. Vibes are terrible at this moment. And Aaron Anderson stepped in. A 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to give LSU the lead back, and Oklahoma would never lead again for the remainder of the game. And sometimes it's serendipitous. Xavion Thomas had taken a hard hit. He was being evaluated for concussion, which is why Aaron Anderson was back there returning the kickoff. And he made it count. 100 yards for the score. First kickoff for a return for a touchdown in Tiger Stadium for LSU since Trey Palmer against South Carolina back in 2020 in Tiger Stadium. and it gave LSU a 17-14 lead. Now, Oklahoma would respond to tie it, but 2:02 to play in the first half, 17-17 ball game. Garrett Nussmeier returns. Roar of the crowd, and it wasn't just that he was back in, but this was the sequence. Remember, Garrett Nussmeier's got a bum shoulder. This is the sequence. Josh Williams, 4 yards. Josh Williams, 2 yards. It's 3rd and 4. You got to throw it. Mason Taylor, 6 yards. You convert. First down at the 46. Josh Williams, you throw it. 7 yards. Mason Taylor, 7 yards. You throw it. And then you're at the OU 40, and Garrett Nussmeier heaves one down the right sideline, and Chris Hilton hauls in the touchdown in the front right pylon to give LSU the 24-17 lead. You want to know how you should feel good at that moment if you're an LSU fan? Oklahoma had 45 seconds and 2 timeouts, and they sat on the football. They didn't believe at all that their offense could move the football, that they were going to have any success moving the football, and they sat on it with 45 seconds and 2 timeouts. I do want to point out something about Chris Hilton because he did have another touchdown reception on LSU's first possession of the second half. That one a 45-yarder. And for Hilton, he finished the day with just 2 receptions, but both were for touchdowns. And he ended up with 85 yards. 2 catches for 85 yards to lead LSU, and both receptions went for touchdowns. When you watch Chris Hilton on Saturday and the plays he made, it is easy to now understand why we talked so much about Chris Hilton in fall camp, why he was such a standout, why it was so important to get him back. Because for the first time all season, you had that dimension to your offense, the ability to stretch the field and hit big shots over the top. And you hit 2 of them to Chris Hilton. Welcome back, Chris Hilton. Feel great for that guy who has persevered through a lot of injuries. But when he is on the field, an extremely talented guy. And for all the conversation about Brian Kelly yelling at him on the sideline a couple of weeks ago, and I understand that. Sometimes we overreact. The bottom line is sports are competitive, and there's high emotions and a lot going on there. And TV cameras are in everybody's face, and there's microphones everywhere. But Chris Hilton showed he's coachable and came up with 2 massive plays for LSU. The second touchdown put the Tigers up 31-17. The next drive is when Sage Ryan would come up with an interception. Great for a senior on senior night to come up with a pick. And y'all, this is the point where Nuss had the play where he reached the football on the 3rd down scramble. And, I just keep going back to that. You're up 31-17. You just got an interception. I mean, you're in command of this ball game. It's not something you had to do, but LSU owned the moment. Now, they would stall out on a 3rd and 4. Josh Williams dropped a pass from Garrett Nussmeier. Tigers would kick a 22-yard field goal to go up 34-17. And this is where the defense cranked up the intensity. If I had another big takeaway, aside from Nussmeier, it was this defense. The next defensive possession, Dominant McKinley. Dominant McKinley is sack, Devon Keys sack. 3 and out, 2 sacks, both from freshmen. Tigers would get the ball back. He got sloppy. You had holding on Caden Durham, false start on Paul Mabenga, false start on DJ Chester. You'd end up punting. But first play of the next defensive possession, Dominant McKinley sack. 2nd and 15, a TFL. 3rd and 16, Whit Weeks had a personal foul for a late hit out of bounds, which was a good call. But just look at the intensity, the effort, the drive, the physicality LSU's playing with at this point. And later in that drive, they're facing a 3rd and 3. Zy Alexander comes up with a big TFL on a pass into the flat. Then on 4th and 6, Whit Weeks comes up with a sack, strip, fumble. It was a day where defensively LSU was so physical and so superior and so dominant. And it was great to see the youth. Devon Keys, 10 tackles, a TFL, a sack. How about Dominic McKinley, the 5-star number 1 player in Louisiana? 4 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 TFLs, an amazing day. Overall for LSU, 4 sacks, 10 TFLs, an interception, 2 pass breakups, 4 quarterback hurries, and a forced fumble. LSU looked like, and I get it, Oklahoma and Kentucky are the 2 worst offenses in the SEC. But LSU dominated. And there have been times this year where LSU has made good or made bad offenses look good. That was a day where LSU, pitching a shutout in the second half, put the stranglehold on Oklahoma. The Sooners scored 17 points, but remember, they got 7 points on a defensive score. That Oklahoma offense scored 10 points in that ballgame. The Oklahoma offense put up 10 points on the day and were shut out in the second half. Phenomenal to see by the defense and great to see the young guys as well. Let me not miss Whit Weeks, who had 15 tackles on the day and continues to be one of the greatest forces in college football defensively. Greg Penn, we found out after the game, playing with broken ribs, 9 tackles, 1.5 TFLs, had a quarterback hurry. A great day for so many of the veterans on this team. It was a team you were playing with a quarterback who was known to run the football and had success a week ago running the football, and that's been LSU's Achilles heel. And the Tigers in this ballgame limited Jackson Arnold. Arnold was the leading rusher, 17 for 75, but you'll take that every day of the week. And a hat tip to Aaron Anderson. As we mentioned, the kickoff return was the biggest play of the game. At a moment in the game when it felt dire, when they took the lead, Nussmeier was hurt, nothing felt right, and Aaron Anderson immediately grabbed the lead back. Your defense got to stop, and Garrett Nussmeier came back in and gave LSU the lead before half, and they never relinquished it. What a win for LSU. I understand it's not one of those wins that, it's not a ranked win. It's not a top 10 win, top 5 win. It's not a win that's getting you to Atlanta. It's not a win that's going to win you a championship or anything of the sort. But when your mettle was being tested, when your culture was being tested, what are you playing for with all of your goals off the table? And you go out at home and absolutely choke slam a blue blood like Oklahoma. Heck of a statement by LSU, and they did it in front of DJ Pickett. The 5-star number 1 cornerback in the country was in town, is in town Friday to Sunday. What a final impression it was that LSU was able to deliver to the 5-star number 1 cornerback in the country. We'll find out on Wednesday if, in fact, he will stick with his commitment and sign with LSU. As for the Tigers, we'll wait and see what the bowl destination is. As we learn more, as we know, we'll certainly talk about it here on Locked on LSU. Hey, thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. Of course, we encourage you, if you are on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know. If they love the Tigers, we got you every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.